Welcome to Cooking with Ken. I'm your host, Ken Johnson. So, this is a brand new channel. We've split off from my main channel. At the very end of the video, I'll have a link to the main channel. There's also a link in the description below where you can visit that channel as well as my feather paintings with Ken Johnson channel that I'm also splitting off. So, with the holidays coming, there's always a need for a new side dish. And with that, I thought that this would be a great video. I've already done this video before on my main channel, and I thought I would do a director's cut so that you can actually see some of the additional thoughts, some changes in the recipe, anything that might be a little bit different that you normally wouldn't get. And I normally reserve this kind of content for special deals like Patreon memberships or special features where people pay to be in part of exclusive group. But for this channel, get it started, I thought a director's cut of this video would be great. So let's dig in, and I hope you enjoy the video. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Ken Johnson. Today we're going to be doing Native American style corn, but using my recipe. The reason for this, there is a herb that is not endangered yet, but it is closely getting there. And so this is probably the smallest batch of corn I've ever done in my life. Normally I do 5-gallon buckets of them, and there's a long soak and all that. I didn't do all that stuff. This is a pared down recipe, but I think you'll like it, and the substitutes that I've put in makes it very achievable for the home cook. Alright, so right now I've got roughly a 3-quart pot, and I've filled it up to about 1¼ gallons. Now I'm going to add in 2 cups of regular sugar. One of the things that I didn't talk about, I normally use maple syrup in my recipe, and it's still a roasted color, got that caramel color to it, but I use the lightest maple syrup with a caramel color that I can get away with. Sometimes you'll get them and they're just too roasted, almost have a burnt taste to them. I don't want that. I just want that nice Maillard reaction. If you don't know what Maillard reaction is, you'll definitely hear about it if you keep watching my videos. It is nothing more than the browning process. And that's where you get all those unctuous notes as sugars and proteins start cooking and browning. So with this, I do find that maple syrup pairs very well with corn, and I use it sparingly, but that is something I do add to my recipe and for my soak here. But in this video, I didn't do that because I was trying to make it as easy as possible for someone that may not have access to everything in the world, and I was just trying to make it easy. But if you wanted to add maple syrup, that'd be a good thing to add. Now I've got 1/8 of a cup of sea salt. Now I've got an ounce of allspice berries. I'm going to crack them up first in mortar and pestle, and then we'll let this boil away. Alright, that was coarsely beaten up in the mortar and pestle. If you had a coffee grinder, you could, one of those little electric spice grinders, you could put it in that. They didn't have any already pre-ground allspice, or otherwise I probably would have cheated and got that. Pickings were slim today at the grocery store. So anyway, 1 ounce of that goes in. You could add some black pepper if you wished. I may add just a little bit. If I did, I'd only add maybe a ½ teaspoon. Alright, I am going to throw some of this in there. This McCormick's Peppercorn Medley grinder. Just put in about ½ teaspoon of that in there. Not much. Maybe not even a ½ teaspoon. We're trying to simulate a herb that is used in Native American cooking, but I'm trying to make it where the average home cook can do it. Since posting this video, I have caught a lot of heat with Native Americans. So my own community, because if you don't realize it, I am Native American. I am what we call in the Native American community from a passer heritage. That means that my ancestors had intermarried with certain racial groups to the point that Native American was no longer a race, but rather an ethnicity. And that was the case for my family, and really it's the case for most of your Native Americans in the southeastern woodlands. And that's your Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Seminole, those types of tribes. And so I really call a lot flack from northern tribes and western tribes. And the reason why is that they all knew what the secret herb was. That, why aren't you telling people about the secret herb? It's not a secret. Well, it's secret to the Native Americans, but it's not, we know the secret. Native Americans, we know the secret, but the rest of the world does not. And I'll tell you the secret. It's sassafras. And the reason why, and once I told them that, they're like, well, it's not here. It's not endangered here. I'm like, yeah, but also your population is nowhere near what we have here in Florida and other parts of the eastern United States. And as populations change, I fear that sassafras will be one of the first things that go by the wayside because it is a shrub that's normally removed when people build homes. And right now in Santa Rosa County, Florida, where I live, uh, they're building homes left and right, and native vegetation is just dying away, and the animals and everything else are suffering. It's destroying the ecosystems. And so I just, we don't have any type of farms or anything trying to preserve sassafras, not to amount to anything. There's no preservation of our indigenous plant life in any of the state statutes or anything of that nature. So at the time, I opted to just say, hey, look, use allspice. And really and truly, allspice is a very good substitute. It is amazing how good of a substitute it is. But like so many Native Americans told me, said you do not realize how many people watching your videos may be Native American, and just like you had to fight for your heritage, you owe it to them to tell them what that secret is so that they can have that component of their heritage. Upon reflection of their words and wise counsel, I've changed my opinion. I am still highly concerned about sassafras one day becoming an endangered plant. Right now, it's a least concern plant in most states where it naturally grows. But as development takes place, that could quickly change. And that's for me, I have to travel a great deal just to try to find sassafras now in my area. And I just didn't want it to be something that would be in danger. And some people have even said by putting on the radar that this plant is endangered, and it has a cultural benefit and also a culinary benefit that may be tying it to Native Americans and its importance to our heritage and our culture, that it might get a little bit more traction for preserving it. So that's another reason why I'm adding it. But really what called to my heartstrings is that when you have to be told about your heritage in whispers, that's no way to live. And I've always resented that somebody had to wait for nobody to be listening, tell me about my heritage, because it seemed to almost be a sin to be Native American in America at the time that I grew up. And I don't ever want any Native American to be lacking for their culture. Not that I think this corn recipe is much, but when you're starved to learn, anything is better than nothing. So this recipe naturally is a hack to a more traditional recipe that I use. I haven't shared that recipe, but if you're interested in true Native American cooking, it's not the allspice. Allspice is something from the Caribbean islands. It's called Jamaican pepper for a reason. Instead, you need to use sassafras. Sassafras is what you need to make the tea. It will make the corn taste like what you see at a powwow. Now I'm going to add in a roughly anywhere from an eighth to a half teaspoon of ground cloves. This can go off the rails very quickly. It's a very powerful spice, so you don't want to put too much. There we go. So if you're using ground allspice, 2 tablespoons of ground allspice is roughly an ounce. You could use as much as 2 ounces. It really depends. I don't want this to get too strong. Now that it's boiled, what I'm going to do is turn it off and let it sit and see how it tastes. For the last element of this, we're going to add vanilla. I'm going to add about a tablespoon. I know most people think I'd add MSG if you've ever watched my show. And really, you could add some MSG. It wouldn't hurt. About a tablespoon never would hurt. But we're going to do vanilla. Like I said, about a tablespoon. So let's talk about vanilla and corn. That is another one of those pairings that just makes sense. So a lot of times I will have maple syrup in the cabinet or refrigerator and vanilla extract just for no other reason than cooking corn. I put it in, and I'm talking about just a small amount of the maple syrup, just a small amount for my cornbread because I don't like sweet cornbread. But that vanilla and that sweetness, that makes the corn taste more of corn. The same thing if I am doing any type of cream style corn, I'll put just a little bit in there, or I'll even put vanilla ice cream. I've been known to do that. That helps out. In this case, again, I'm doing a corn that was, I'll even do like when I'm doing boiled corn, I'll put just a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of the maple syrup. You don't need much of either, but really and truly, vanilla and maple syrup, they do something to corn that's transformative. Alright, so this right here is cool, is room temperature. I've let it sit for about an hour and a half. And so now we're going to prepare our corn. Alright, so they had corn at the supermarket today. It was 3 ears for $1. They had the bicolor corn, yellow corn, and white corn, so I got 4 of each. I also have here a box of 2-gallon Ziploc freezer bags. So what we're going to do is cut the ends of the corn. So we're not going to actually cut this end, but what we're going to do is just lightly cut this end right here. And what that's going to do is allow me to get it into this bag. So I'm cutting it to where I can get it into the bag. And it's also going to create an opening for the juice to get in and go in through the cob. And then later on I'm going to be making my pecan, blueberry, and cream cheese pie. If you hadn't seen that before, I'll put a link in the description. That's going to go with our meal, but I'm going to start cutting these off and I'll show you when I've got them in the bags. I'm going to show you how this works. So usually when you're doing it, when you're pulling corn off, this is where the base of the cob is. So you got about 2 inches, 3 inches. Alright? And you want the most amount of husk possible. If you're doing it for a tribal event, this is perfect. You would have a big vat, you would soak it in special solution that you make up. We're not doing that special solution. That I think some things should stay a secret, and so I'm not going to divulge it. Some others show might, but I'm not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this just a little bit and expose this. That will leave me enough that it'll actually fit into the bag, and that's what I'm trying to do, is fit it into the bag. So for this cob, that meant I had to cut roughly about 1.5 inches. And so once I do that, then we can take that off. Alright, so again, this is not the recipe that I normally use when I'm making my corn. This is a recipe that I made for the average person that doesn't do this all the time. Understand that. There's a totally different process why I'm trying to make this traditional way. And there's a reason why that process is so different. One of the reasons why is that corn, by cutting off the extra stalk and cutting off those other outer leaves, you're doing a lot. You're causing the corn to not have as much protection when you put on the heat and roasting it. And also at an event, you want to have something to hold on to, and that makes a nice little handhold. So really and truly, if I was doing this for a family event, doing it for a tribal event, doing it for any other reason other than YouTube, for me, I would not be cutting that off. And again, the way that I do it, I put them in 5-gallon buckets, weighted down. They're submerged in this liquid that I'm making. Although it's not the same liquid, it's similar, but not the same. I already mentioned some of the differences. And it soaks for a long time versus what I put here, but you'll see that in a minute. I would say that just be aware that you need to go at a lower temperature when you're cooking your corn if you do what I say, because for this video, if you do what I say, because you're removing so much protection from that corn by removing the corn husks. And the corn husks, they not only provide protection, but they provide flavor. And they also help with cooking and heat distribution in the corn itself. It does a lot. Really does a lot. So by removing that, you're actually making your job more difficult. Again, this was a pared down recipe for the average person to give a try. And I'm just bringing this up because the holidays coming up and a lot of people are wanting interesting side dishes. Maybe you're doing smoked turkey. This would be a great thing to add with smoked turkey. I'm telling you, you could just put this liquid in a 5-gallon bucket and put the corn there. Don't cut off that 1.5 to 2 inches, and stick it in there and let it sit. Keep it cool. If you got a walk-in fridge or you got some ice packs or something, you can weight it down. Keep it cold. 2-day soak, not bad. Then you can roast it and have something wonderful. But I just want to bring that up because that is something that will become an issue and become evident in this video later on. That effectively removed about 1/4 inch of extra protection. So that's the reason why I don't like doing it this way. But at home, if you don't have a big giant bucket or vat or something to soak this in, this is a much easier way. It will still work. Now, if you worried about not cooking all the way through, whatever, what you could do is boil the corn in a giant pot with this tea solution that I made. It won't be as good, but it will work, and then that makes sure that you cooked all the way through. But I'm going to add this to a bag and show you what it looks like. Cut the size, alternating big end with little end. So, you know, you got the end of cob here, end of cob there, and alternating everything. That gives you 2 rows of 6 for a total of 12 ears that fits into a 2-gallon bag perfectly. Now we'll add in our fluid and then put this into the refrigerator. This will sit overnight. You need it to sit overnight so that you get it to soak all the way through. 2 nights would be even better, but most times only do overnight anyway. Alright, so what we're going to do is just put this in a refrigerator, let this sit. I'll flip it over probably in about an hour or two. When I go to bed, I'll flip it. When I wake up in the morning, I'll flip it, wait about an hour or two. Might flip it again, might let it set for a little bit, but basically just keep flipping it and it'll start sucking out that juice into the corn, and as it sucks it into the cob, it'll just flavor it even more. Alrighty, so one of the things I did not mention adequately enough in this video is that you need to have some type of sheet tray under this. And that's in case there is a malfunction. And really and truly with this video, when I was doing it, there was a malfunction. I have had a problem recently with zip top bags busting. At first it was the off-brand zip top bags. They would bust, not just with this recipe, but other recipes as well. And it was just cause Ziploc is so freaking expensive compared to others that I was like, I just don't want to pay Ziploc prices. And so I decided that I would use others, and I had failures. With the 2-gallon size bag, it is very difficult to find any manufacturer other than Ziploc making a 2-gallon size bag. And what I've noticed recently is that Ziploc has even went downhill. And I've had several times that even smaller size bags for simple things like breading or piping, you know, like for, I've got a little piping trick where I use a quart bag. I'll cut the end of it off and pipe. I'm getting ruptures. The bags are not sealed as they should be with their heat sealing process. And so Ziploc recently has been having failures like the knockoffs. And so I don't know why that is the case, but I did have this. One of the supposed to be sealed edges was not sealed, and it leaked out. It was a small hole, but it was enough that it caused the entire pan be filled up with liquid. That's one of the reasons why the liquid did not get absorbed into the corn as much as I like. You'll notice that at the end of the video. It's also one of the reasons why I pretty much stick to the 5-gallon bucket method. It's just a pain to try to keep that regulated because I don't have a walk-in fridge. I don't have any place where I put a 5-gallon bucket and keep it cool constantly. But if you had one of those 3-day ice chests where you could put cold liquid in there and put in there and soak it, that might be an option. If you had a Tupperware or a Rubbermaid container that you could fit into your cooler, and keep it cool, your refrigerator and keep it cool, that's another option. But the zip top bag did fail. That's the reason why I had a sheet tray under it. It's hard to see because it's all zoomed in, but there was a sheet tray under it, and the whole reason was just in case it failed, and surely it did fail. Okay, so the corn is on the grill. One of the things I hope you noticed when I was doing the corn, you need to make sure you have a tray under it. And especially when you're opening up the bag, put this on the grill, you're going to need that tray. But also, if the bag malfunctioned or whatever, you want something to catch the liquid so that you don't mess up your refrigerator. Usually when I do this, I use a 5-gallon bucket and I use ice cold water, or that tea. I get it ice cold and let it sit overnight in that, and then I stir it around, move it around. It's an all-night process. This is a lot easier. If you don't want to do it, remember you can boil it in that tea solution. It just won't be as good. Now what we're going to do is just let this slowly roast. You always want these ends to be right here. It makes it a little easier to turn with your hands if you wish to. You can get some paper towels if it gets a little too hot. If I had a bigger grill, so like a travel event, they have really big grills and they'll have the stalks out really big. The reason for that is that they put them over the coals, have an area that's not as hot where you can just grab your hand, and just twist, and then it makes a nice little handle for people when they're eating. One of the things I want to talk about is the grill itself. Now, the grill that I am using was designed for my father, and my father passed away back a few years back, right before Christmas. He didn't use the grill that much. It was meant to be a smoker grill combo, and there's some defects with it. There's not a single grill that's made that's perfect. There's not a single smoker made that is perfect. Everything that you make will always have defects and challenges. And this smoker grill, really, one of the things that I have a issue with is that the barrel is too small. By that I mean that the steel canister that they cut to make into the grill portion, it had a diameter that's too narrow. They needed to find something that was bigger for this to be more effective. And so what that means is that I cannot control how far away my food is from the heat. It's more direct heat cooking. Even though a grill directly is direct heat cooking, this is far more intense and harsh than what you would find with a deeper, bigger diameter grill. And so you need to roast this in some type of grill setting where you have a way of adjusting the heat level, and I don't have that with this grill. And so you'll notice that there's going to be some heat issues. I wouldn't do this for some small little personal grill. It doesn't work well. But if you got something it's a deep grill that, where you can move the coals up or down, or you can move your food up and down away from the coals, you're going to be far better set than somebody that's like me that doesn't have the ability to change that. So just be aware of that. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just going to let this come up to heat, and we'll just be turning this over every now and then. So right now it's not quite up to heat. It's not there yet. See how that's just slowly turning? That's a little hot spot there. That's a hot spot there. We'll probably switch these out in a little bit. And that's the thing, you always got to keep moving things around on your grill to make sure that you're not letting something get too hot, like that's getting too hot right there. So I may move this right here instead. Alright, and this one right here, we'll do the same. So I'm going to just move these around, and I'll be back in a minute and show you what they look like. Now I will say these right here are a little bit too close to the coals. I wish this grill had a way I could lower down the coal rack, because you need this to be kind of off the coals. You really want the corn husk to be a chocolate color. When they turn a chocolate color, that's when they're about done. So like right, I don't know if it's hard, it's a little hard to see, but when you see that kind of dark chocolate but not really burnt, that's what you're really looking for on these. It's going to be hard to do it with this grill, but that's where you just have to manage your fire a little bit better, manage your heat a little bit better, turn them more often. I didn't turn them as much. I had to do some stuff inside and it got away from me for a little bit. So, you know, this is one that you kind of have to stay on top of a little bit, but it's really worth it. And here they are off the grill. All you do is you just separate this right here, come down one stroke, halving it, and then come down with the other stroke, and that gets off most of your shucks. Then you just dip in butter, and that's it. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to do this. It's a very simple process. What you do is kind of tease these silks and the husks apart in half, and then what you do is just come down in one strong stroke, and there you go. You got just a couple right there of silks, but that's pretty much it. And then you just dip it in some butter. So this is how it'd be eaten at a powwow, whatever. This is bicolor corn. I've got some white, I got some yellow, but that's pretty much how you do it. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please, if you found this to be informative, go ahead, hit like, comment down below if you made this or you tried this before. And if you would, I would really appreciate if you'd subscribe to this channel. We'll have some cooking videos coming out shortly, but as we're getting started and getting rolling, I thought some of these behind the scenes videos would be a good indicator of what you can expect to see. One of the things I will note is that I was at a recent festival and they were making grilled, well, it wasn't grilled corn. They advertised it as roasted corn. It was not roasted, but their corn, they were selling it $10 an ear. Think about that. $10 an ear. And I bought that corn. It was on sale at the grocery store for 3 years for $1. There's not much of a markup there, is there? Now imagine if you were doing an event, fundraising event, something like that for a school or what have you, and you got with a local farmer that was growing sweet corn. How much easier and cheaper could you do it and make it at $10 an ear? Good grief. That's almost pure profit. I know of very few things where you have that kind of markup. That, I mean, it's greater than a 10 times multiple on your profit or on your initial investment as profit. Really? Really? Oh, good grief. Corn got expensive very quickly. But something else I didn't mention is that I don't think I clarified it. So when you're freezing this corn, if you'll leave it in the husks and just put them into a zip top bag, that is the best way. And then you can just heat them up in the microwave. That corn husk, all it's going to do is add in the flavors. Again, the gas grill option with the wood chips, I would strongly recommend that as an option, because even though I am a charcoal fanatic and I believe charcoal is best for just about every situation, there are times where I admit that their gas does have its benefits. With that said, I have used gas grills before, and I tend to replace gas grills about 5 to 1 compared to the charcoal grill, and usually I do not have the flavor from a gas grill that I get from a charcoal. That is the reason why I'm a die-hard charcoal fan. But if you happen to have a gas grill, this would be a perfect way of getting that wonderful chocolate colored uh, coating that you need on your husks. But thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Bye.